You know, whether I planned it or not, when I began this series, I never thought I'd end up the mayoress of a newly created deer village.
The admin for it's been an absolute nightmare.
You have no idea, guys. I mean, all that planning permission that you need to get the right size living quarters suitable for every kind of quadruped, it's complicated. Notwithstanding the tank that needed replacing when we introduced the sharks to the goats. And I don't think you even want to know what happened to the ants.
You know what you need, Emmy?
What's that?
A break.
Ah, yeah, that would be nice. Yeah. Okay. Let's do it. I'm going to kick off my shoes. I'm going to flop back on that sofa with a nice book. And all I need from you is a warm cup of tea.
I mean, yeah, you could do that. But it does need to be a hot drink.
I'm going to regret asking this, Sam, but why?
Well, because the clue is in the name. A tea is a hot drink. Therefore, it is something that should be consumed at its optimal temperature, which is hot. A hot drink. You wouldn't have a warm chocolate. And, you know, that's not even before we start talking about soup as well.
Okay, but what about chocolate milk?
Well, that's completely different. That's a cold beverage made from the milk of a brown cow.
Don't think that's how it works, Sam.
Well, why not? You get chocolate milk from brown cows, banana milk from yellow, and strawberry milk from pink ones.
No. Strawberry milk comes from strawberries.
What? You're telling me you've seen a strawberry with udders?
Of course not, Sam. That would be utterly ridiculous.
Anyway, I think this is a conversation for another day, Emmy, because we're getting right off track. If you want a hot drink, then it needs to be at its peak temperature. Otherwise, it'll become terrible and it's room temperature.
And you don't want a drink that's lukewarm, then?
Yeah, what's the deal with that? Why can't I enjoy my drink luke hot?
Well, you can, I guess, in theory.
What?
Etymology Escapades with Emelina.
And sometimes Sam.
Based on true conversations I have with my partner, and occasionally with my friends. I want to preface this before we start by saying that I cannot, and I'm sure Sam can't either, pronounce some of the words in their original dialects or meanings. And that's not because I don't want to try. I have tried, repeatedly. And ultimately, it's about having fun and learning about the origin stories anyway. And just having a bit of a giggle about the meanings of words is far more interesting to me than trying to learn how to pronounce Hluic. But we'll get to that. You see, lukewarm, in essence, is something that's neither hot or cold. It's just a bit tepid.
It kind of sits in the middle of the temperature scale, if you will, and I think it's kind of important to talk about how scales work in sort of English language. We kind of have these scales of magnitude, which we're not exactly taught. It's just something you pick up contextually. Now, temperature scale, that's kind of obvious. You go from boiling to freezing. There are some very clearly defined things, but you have words in there which kind of just filter around in the middle. And I think a better example would be talking about the word great and fantastic. Now, that's not temperature related, but if we're talking about just how those words stack up against each other, they kind of mean the same thing, but we know
wildly different extremes.
Oh, no, I wouldn't even say that. I mean, if something is great, if you're ignoring any sense of sarcasm, something that is great is something that is good. It's kind of exciting.
It's positive. And
fantastic is another word that basically means the same thing, but for whatever reason, we rank it a little bit higher than great. If something is fantastic, well, that's greater than great.
Perhaps, then, it's to do with the rising inflections in how we speak.
Possibly. I mean, you've got other examples that I can think of, such as, you know, if something's exciting, that's kind of cool. And you've got exhilarating.
And again, exhilarating sounds faster, but you don't really get that from freezing, and cold, and hot, and
mild, and lukewarm,
and tepid. Yeah. So, going back to our point, why lukewarm and not luke hot? See, luke in itself is a prefix from Middle English. And if I take the phrasing of lukewarm and separate it a little further, luke in Old English, Hluic, originated from the spelling Hlui in Middle Dutch and Old Friesian, which means luke, tepid, or weak. It's also from the Proto-Germanic Fries, which may or may not mean warm. So, in essence, Sam, Chaucer is sparing us this horrible paradox of calling everything warm, warm, or tepid, tepid, by putting the two together in one phrase that neatly confines it to its place on the scale of temperature.
I mean, if we were to have a sort of luke hot, obviously with one of those meanings of luke being weak, sort of a weak hot would kind of be warm, and I'm just thinking with luke cold, would that push it up the temperature, or would it push it down the temperature scale?
I would assume because it's weaker, it'd be warmer.
That's what I would think, but it's just one of those, it's one of those things that keeps me up at night.
That and his list to Chaucer.
Yes, the all-important list.
He's writing a list, he's making it twice, he's telling Chaucer he's not very nice. But, tepid itself almost distinguishes itself from lukewarm purely because it applies more to liquids than solids. And there's a lovely phrase, in fact, from the 17th century, which says, "Let the water stand in the sun till it grow tepid." And this is from a gardening manual. Other words that played with this prefix include luke-hearted, which meant you were having little warmth or feeling indifferent.
Well, could I be, I'm just thinking if this is a prefix, can I be lukely?
Well, that's an adverb, so you can but you can't. In essence, you're behaving in a rather unenthusiastic, tepid way.
So basically, if I put very little effort into what I'm doing it in a lukely manner.
You're displaying an act of lukeness, the state or quality of being tepid. You're lacking enthusiasm, you're lacking indifference. It's essentially speaking, you're just meh. So whilst we could, in theory, make a scale of all things luke, it could be complicated by the fact that it means both indifference and a form of temperature. It is both moderate and not moderate, or as Green's Dictionary of Slang very neatly surmises, it means nothing.
At this moment, I'm feeling very luke about creating a scale of lukiness. And I know for the fact that if I was to be in that state, the effort would be very lukely.
All I know is I'm very, very overwhelmed.
You know what? If you can be overwhelmed and underwhelmed, does that mean there exists a state where you are sufficiently whelmed?
See you next time, everyone. Thanks for joining us on the continued adventures of Etymology Escapades. I'm really sorry that these episodes are taking a little while to make, as life is decidedly busy sometimes, and I want to be certain, where possible at least, that we display the same levels of enthusiasm and non-lukedness throughout. After all, you're only seeing a snippet of the random madness that goes on inside Sam and I's heads. With all that said and done, I'm looking forward to seeing you in the next one. And in case we can't get something together before the end of the year, I hope you have a fantastic start to the holidays and are ready for something new and exciting in 2024, including more nonsense with words. Bye for now.